No one had seen a human ship in over a century. Not since the collapse. Not since Earth burned itself out in wars of pride and power, and the remaining colonies fell into silence. The Galactic Empire thought the humans had finally done what everyone predicted. They wiped themselves out. And the galaxy moved on. Or, at least, it tried to. But now, in the middle of the Empire's most secure sector, above the glittering skies of Virel Prime, something tore reality apart. It didn't slip through a wormhole. It didn't arrive with the buzzing hum of regulated hyperspace. It didn't send a comm beacon ahead. It just appeared. A single warship. Old. Black. Scarred like it had lived through 1,000 battles, and won every single one of them. It was massive, easily 4 times the size of an Imperial dreadbreaker, yet its design didn't match anything in the known archives. No insignia, no markings, no heat signature. Just silence. The Imperial fleet was caught off guard. Not a single one of their sensors had picked it up until it was already within range of the planetary defense systems. Alarms screamed across Virel Prime as their satellites finally registered the presence. Emperor Calrix himself watched from the Citadel spire, high above the city. His 3 hearts beat in dissonance, and his second set of eyelids blinked in disbelief. "What in the void is that?" he asked, more to himself than to the advisors scrambling behind him. High Marshal Thorne stepped forward. We believe it's a human vessel, Your Eminence." Calrix turned slowly. His scales darkened with rage. "That's impossible. Humanity is extinct." Thorne swallowed. "Respectfully, sir, that is no longer accurate." Before Calrix could respond, the warship moved. Not with the slow, calculated grace of modern Empire vessels. It shifted like a predator. No visible propulsion, no warning. It slid through space like it was swimming, and the fleet didn't know whether to fire or run. They did neither. They hesitated. That was their mistake. A single pulse erupted from the ship's underbelly, silent, colorless, and faster than light. In the blink of an eye, 4 Imperial cruisers ceased to exist. No explosion, no wreckage, just gone. Disintegrated at the molecular level like they'd never been built. Panic didn't just ripple through the Empire, it erupted. All communication lines lit up, emergency protocols activated, civilian transports were grounded, and the planetary defense grid switched to full power. But none of it mattered. Because that ship, whatever it was, just hovered there, still and silent, like it hadn't even started yet. Thorne's voice cracked. "We need to open a channel. Maybe it's a rogue AI. Maybe it can be reasoned with." Calrix hissed through sharp teeth. "You want to talk to it?" "We don't have a choice." They tried. The Empire's finest diplomats, xenolinguists, signal techs, codebreakers, broadcast every known frequency. They spoke in 100 languages. They begged, demanded, threatened. The ship never responded. But eventually it acted again. A transmission came through. Not a voice, not a message. Just a single image, burned across every comm screen, from the palace halls to the outer moons. A human face. Old, cold, staring. A face marked with years of war and loss. And beneath it, written in galactic standard, only 4 words. "We never left. Remember." The image faded. The panic didn't, because the Empire knew something then. Humanity hadn't vanished. They'd just been watching. And now they were back. The face haunted them. Every corner of the Empire, from the highest command posts to the smallest mining outposts, had seen that face. Gray eyes, wrinkled skin. The face of someone who had survived everything and regretted none of it. No name, no voice, just a warning. We never left. Remember. The Empire didn't know what to remember. They had buried humanity in their history logs, declared them a failed species, a warning of unchecked aggression and emotional volatility. The last human colony had gone dark 97 years ago, and the Empire had celebrated its final victory without ever firing the last shot. Humanity had imploded, they thought. But now, one ship, a ghost from Earth's grave, had wiped out a third of their outer fleet in seconds. Back at the Citadel spire, Emperor Calrix was no longer calm. His claws dug into the arms of his throne as advisors shouted and screens flashed with reports of rising unrest. Civilian broadcasts were in chaos. Words like ancient weapons, human revenge, galactic extinction were trending across every known media stream. "Have we found the origin of the ship?" he growled. Thorne, pale and shaking, replied, "No signal trail, no entry point. Our long-range sensors showed no hyperspace tear. It's like it phased in from somewhere else." "You mean they developed tech beyond the Empire's reach?" Calrix said, more bitterly than inquisitively. "Impossible. We scouted every world. We destroyed every lab." "They must have survived in exile," said a new voice. A younger one, General Mirren, newly promoted. Half her face was cybernetic, the result of an old border war with the Jadari Confederacy. She rarely spoke unless she had something worth listening to. Calrix turned toward her. "You believe this is an intentional strike?" She nodded. "Absolutely. Not a test. Not a scouting vessel. That ship came here to be seen." "To show power?" "Number to remind us we're vulnerable." The room fell silent. Calrix hated silence. "We need options," he snapped. "Solutions, not theories. What assets do we have nearby?" Thorne answered immediately. "Orbital defense platform Helios is within striking range, armed with nuclear plasma lances. It can respond in minutes." "And if it fails?" Mirren added. "If that ship wants us to attack?" Calrix ignored her. "Send the order." Thorne hesitated. "Your Eminence, this could be seen as an act of—" "Do it." Within minutes, the command was sent. Helios turned its lances toward the human warship, each weapon the size of a tower, designed to destroy rogue moons and incoming asteroids. This was the Empire's most powerful defense installation. The warship didn't move, didn't respond. Just drifted, silently, ominously above Virel Prime. The lances fired. The sky lit up like a new sun was born. Radiation, plasma, magnetic shockwaves, all slammed into the black warship with full fury, and nothing happened. The lights dimmed. The warship remained untouched. Not a single scorch mark. Then, for the first time, it moved. Not slowly, not deliberately. One moment it was in orbit. The next, it was inside Helios. Somehow, impossibly, the ship phased through the defense platform. Surveillance cut out for 4.3 seconds, and when the cameras returned, Helios was empty. Gone. Every crew member, every weapon system, every scrap of metal, like it had been vacuumed out of reality. Only one thing remained, hovering above the ruins of the station, a human flag, charred, torn, ancient, but unmistakable. The Empire stared into the void and realized this wasn't an attack. It was a declaration, and humanity had just announced its return to the galaxy. Not as victims, but as a power the stars had long forgotten to fear. Whispers of surrender started spreading through the Imperial Senate by morning. The Senate, usually bloated with pride and empty threats, had never experienced such terror. Helios wasn't just a station. It was a statement. A monument to the Empire's dominance, to the fear it once instilled across 1,000 worlds. And now it was gone. Not destroyed, not even wrecked, erased. The message was clear. Your power means nothing. In the inner chambers, Calrix's fury turned inward. He didn't scream anymore. That would be weakness. Instead, he paced, silent, calculating, breathing through his gills as he considered every move that didn't end in the Empire's humiliation. "They're baiting us," Mirren said, still standing tall while others cowered. "Into what?" Kalric snapped. "Another failure? Another weapon we don't understand?" "Number into making a mistake, one they can use to justify whatever they're planning next." Kalrix narrowed his eyes. "You speak like you understand them." She paused. "I've studied them. My thesis at the War College was on early human warfare tactics. I was mocked for it." Kalrix sneered. "Perhaps they should have mocked you harder. Perhaps they should have listened." He said nothing, but his silence was permission enough. "Their wars were personal," she continued. "They didn't fight for planets or treaties. They fought for revenge, for honor, for ghosts. And when they couldn't win with strength, they used fear. They let their enemies destroy themselves with paranoia." "Are you saying we shouldn't act?" "I'm saying someone needs to talk to them." That idea sent a wave of uncomfortable shifting through the room. Talk to a human? A relic species? A ghost of chaos? But Kalrix had been Emperor long enough to recognize the real threat. Not the ship, but the image it projected. Fear was spreading faster than any weapon. Civil unrest was already sparking on 5 core worlds. Military captains were questioning their orders. Fringe systems had started defecting, sending silent signals of allegiance to whoever these humans were now. "They planned this," Kalrix said, almost to himself. "They waited until we were too fat, too self-satisfied, too arrogant. They've probably been watching us for decades." "Centuries," Mirren said. "They didn't survive. They thrived. Somewhere out there they've been building, hidden from our sensors, hidden from the galaxy. And now they've come to remind us what we forgot." A sudden transmission cut through the room like a blade. It wasn't Imperial. It wasn't even broadcast. It forced itself onto every screen, hijacking every frequency, even those deep within secure military channels. And this time, there was a voice. Gravelly. Human. Male. "You forgot us. That was your first mistake." Silence. "We watched. We remembered. Every colony you burned, every leader you executed, every child you told the stars weren't for them." A pause. "We didn't die. We adapted. You evolved in peace. We evolved in war." Static crackled. "We offer you a choice, submission or extinction." The signal cut. No coordinates, no response to counter signals, just a broadcast heard by everyone. And the galaxy trembled. Back in the chamber, Mirren was the only one breathing steady. Thorne stammered, We need to mobilize the core legions." "Alert the Inquisitors. Activate the Vault protocols." "No," Mirren said calmly. "They'll expect that." "Then what do you propose?" She stared at the screen that now showed only the Empire's flag, slightly trembling, as if uncertain of its future. "We find them," she said, "not to fight. To understand." Kalrix turned slowly toward her. His voice was quiet now, too. "And if they don't want to be understood?" Mirren's cybernetic eye flickered. "Then we pray they haven't changed as much as we have." Because deep down, she feared the truth everyone else refused to say. The Empire had built itself on the myth that humanity was dead. And now, with just one ship, one face, and one sentence, that myth had become a nightmare. Across the stars, the Empire's borders began to bleed. Outposts went dark. Trade convoys refused to fly. Systems on the edge of Imperial space began broadcasting strange signals, coded messages in dead languages, some even using old Earth dialects long erased from official archives. But someone had kept them. Someone had waited. Within the Empire, paranoia bloomed like a plague. Governors turned on governors. High-ranking officers accused each other of human sympathies. Even in the military, whispers of the return grew louder. Some feared it. Others secretly welcomed it. And in the shadows of Varel Prime, someone celebrated it. Kyle Voss had lived many lives. Spy, assassin, traitor, survivor. He didn't care what label they used anymore. All he cared about was the truth he had buried for years. The humans weren't extinct. And now, they were here to finish what they started. Kale watched the chaos unfold from a darkened observatory buried beneath the capital's surface. From there, he could see the entire system unraveling one transmission at a time. And in the center of it all, hovering like death made real, was that ship. He smiled. "Took you long enough," he muttered. His comm clicked. A voice spoke on the other end, soft and mechanical. "Is the Emperor preparing for war?" Kyle leaned back, eye catching the glimmer of red tracking lights across the warship's hull. "He's preparing for his own funeral. He just doesn't know it yet." "You've done well, Agent Voss. We'll be arriving soon. Phase 2 begins within the day." Kyle's smile widened. "And the girl?" There was a pause. "She'll remember when the time comes. We made sure of it." He nodded. Somewhere on Varel Prime, hidden in the labyrinth of society, a sleeper agent, a human born and raised in secret, was already waking up. Planted there decades ago, raised to believe she was Imperial, trained, conditioned. And now, with the ship's arrival, her memories would start coming back. A war wasn't coming. It had already started. Years ago, and now it was unfolding exactly as planned. Back in the Citadel, Mirren stood alone on the command deck. She had sent every available scout vessel out to scan fringe space, hoping to trace any data signatures left by the human ship. So far, nothing. It was like chasing a ghost with no shadow. But her instincts screamed louder than her logic. They were here for a reason. Her mind turned to the warning: submission or extinction. But those weren't options. Those were declarations. The humans weren't here to ask for anything. They were giving the Empire a chance to surrender, yes, but not because they feared war, because they knew they would win it. A junior officer approached her quietly. "General Mirren, there's been a development." "What kind?" "Unauthorized access of restricted surveillance footage. Sector 9C, Imperial Archives Vault. Footage was copied and erased before we could contain the breach." Her eyes narrowed. "Who accessed it?" The officer hesitated. "It's classified. Eyes only." "I am eyes only," she snapped. But even as he handed her the datapad, she knew something deeper was unraveling. The footage showed a child, dark-haired, human features, being smuggled into the Imperial capital under false registry 20 years ago. The name listed? Lyra Mirren. She stared at the screen. Her name. Her face. But she didn't remember that child. Didn't remember being anyone but General Mirren of the Imperial Armed Forces. Her hand trembled slightly, datapad slipping from her fingers. No. The ship didn't just come to intimidate the Empire. It came to wake its weapons. And she was one of them. Lyra didn't remember falling. One moment she was standing on the command deck, datapad in hand, watching the face of a girl who wore her eyes, her mouth, but not her memories. The next, she was on her knees, surrounded by silence. Her officers didn't move. They didn't speak. None of them knew what to say to a general who'd just found out she might be a traitor to everything she stood for. Her breath came in shallow, clipped gasps. She barely heard the voice of the junior officer, stammering something about medical assistance. She waved him off. She didn't need medicine. She needed the truth. Back in her quarters, sealed, secure, buried under 5 levels of access codes, She accessed her personal files, scrubbed them clean. No history before age 10, no school photos, no early medical logs, all standard for military-born children. But now it reeked of fabrication, and the more she dug, the worse it got. She had always wondered why she didn't remember her parents, why she was raised by the state in the military foster program. They said her family had died in an asteroid mining accident, that there were no bodies to recover. She had asked questions once, got punished for it. After that, she didn't ask again. But now she couldn't stop. She stared into the mirror. For the first time, she looked at herself. Not as a decorated general, not as a hardened warrior, but as a question without an answer. And then, a whisper. Not from the room, from inside her head. A voice she didn't recognize, yet felt buried deep in her bones. You are not theirs. She froze. Who said that? Silence. Her pulse raced. Another whisper, gentler now. You've always been ours. She stumbled back from the mirror. Her reflection shifted. For a split second, the glass didn't show her Imperial uniform. It showed another version. Same face, same scars, but dressed in black battle armor, marked with the sigil she'd only seen once. On the flag left behind on Helios. The human flag. The image faded just as fast, but it was too late. Something was waking up inside her. She ran a scan on herself. DNA, neural pathways, psychological profiling. All of it came back, altered, modified, not recently. This was old tech, ancient almost, human-made, designed to bury memory, delay identity, triggered by something. Something like that ship. And now the lock was broken. She sat on the edge of her bed, palms over her face, trying to calm the storm in her chest. Her comm chimed. Encrypted. Unknown origin. She almost ignored it. Then she didn't. She opened the channel. Kale Voss's face appeared, calm as ice. Hello, Lyra. Or should I say, Commander Lyra Thorne. The name hit her like a punch. I don't know you, he smirked. You will, soon. What the hell is happening to me? You're remembering. Remembering what? He leaned forward. Who you are, what you were born for, and why you were placed right where you are now. This is a trick, some psychological weapon. It's not a trick, it's justice, Lyra. We're not here to destroy the Empire. She laughed bitterly. You erased an entire space station. We're here to replace the Empire, one piece at a time, starting with the pieces they stole from us. She stood, pacing. Why me? You're one of us, a true-born child of the Resistance. They took you when you were 5, reprogrammed you, raised you to kill your own kind. Her hands curled into fists. If that's true, why did you wait? Why now? He looked past her, almost sad. Because now you're ready. The screen went black. No signal trace, nothing, just silence. But her mind wasn't silent anymore. It screamed with flashes, broken memories rising like ash from an old fire, a woman's voice, a man holding her hand, a place not made of steel and fear. A promise that one day she'd come back to them. And the warship still hovered above Varel Prime, patient and watching. Because it wasn't just there for the Empire. It was there for her. The rain came down hard that night. Varel Prime rarely saw rain. The climate regulators over the capital were designed to keep things pristine, dry, and sterile. But tonight, the system failed. Or maybe someone made it fail. Either way, the sky opened up like it was weeping. Lyra walked through the storm with her coat pulled tight. No guards, no shuttle. She needed to feel it. Every drop, every step, every part of the city she thought she had protected all her life. Because now, she wasn't sure who she had been protecting it from. Kyle Voss had shattered everything. Or maybe he had just peeled the truth back. Commander Alira Thorne, she whispered to herself. The name felt foreign and familiar, like hearing your own voice in a recording, recognizable but distant. She didn't know where she was going until she got there. The Imperial archives, specifically Sub-Level 12, unauthorized access was treason. Every corner was tracked, every vault monitored. But Lyra wasn't just a general. She was the general. She still had command override. And now she wanted answers the Empire had buried. She entered the code. Her fingers moved without hesitation, like they remembered something her conscious mind hadn't caught up to. The vault hissed open. Rows of old physical data chips lined the room, dusty and forgotten. No one bothered with hard backups anymore. That was the mistake. Humans didn't rely on convenience. They hid their secrets where machines couldn't reach. Her eyes scanned quickly. Then she saw it. A file labeled Thorne, redacted. Her breath caught. She inserted the chip. The terminal flickered to life, slower than the newer ones, but it worked. A series of logs appeared. Images, audio files, DNA reports. Her mother, her father. Both confirmed members of the Orion Reclaimers, one of the last human resistance cells before the collapse. But they hadn't collapsed. They had evacuated. One video showed her as a toddler, sitting on a metallic floor, drawing the stars. Her mother's voice behind the camera. She keeps drawing the same constellation. Every day. Like she remembers something we haven't taught her yet. Another file. Blurry footage of an Imperial raid. Soldiers in dark uniforms dragging her parents away. She, barely 5, was wrapped in a blanket, injected with a sedative, and carried off by a man in gold-trimmed armor. High Marshal Vren Targus. She blinked. That couldn't be. Vren Targus had been Kalrix's mentor, the one who built the military foster program, and he had taken her. Her entire life had been fabricated by the people who murdered her family. She clenched her jaw, shutting the terminal off. Her hands were trembling, but her mind wasn't. For the first time in her life, it was clear. As she turned to leave, her comm crackled to life again, unfiltered, unsecured. "General Mirren," came a frantic voice, "you need to return to the command deck, now." "What happened?" "It's the human ship. It's gone." "What do you mean gone? Did it leave orbit?" "No, ma'am, it disappeared." She paused. "Disappeared how?" "Not cloaked, not jumped. Gone. Sensors never even registered a hyperspace signature. Just vanished." Her heart thudded. "Were there any traces left behind?" The officer hesitated. "Yes, ma'am. One thing." "What?" "It dropped something. A pod. It landed outside the capital. No tech signature. Organic-only trace." She froze. "Coordinates?" The officer read them off, and Lyra's breath left her chest. She knew that place, a forested zone just beyond the outer districts, designated uninhabitable, sealed off for decades. But now she remembered. It had been her sanctuary, before they wiped her mind, before they told her she belonged to them. Without answering, she killed the comm feed and turned back. The warship was gone. But the next phase wasn't. It had just begun. The forest was nothing like she remembered, or maybe it was exactly as she remembered, just through the wrong lens. Back when she was a child, the Empire told her it was a restricted zone, contaminated during the planetary terraforming experiments. But there were no toxins here, no radiation, just silence, soil, and trees older than the capital itself. Lyra moved through the undergrowth with slow, steady steps. Her weapon stayed holstered, but her hand never strayed far from it. She wasn't expecting an ambush, but she wasn't naive either. The pod had landed somewhere in this zone. "A message," Kale had said. Or maybe a trigger. Her boots crunched on brittle leaves. The rain had stopped, but the sky was still gray and heavy, like the world was holding its breath. The deeper she went, the more the sound of civilization faded. No transports, no security drones, just wind and memory. Then she saw it. Half buried in the earth, nestled between the roots of a gnarled tree, was a pod. Not military, not like anything in the Empire's database. It was smooth, blackened metal, scarred with use but intact. No lights, no hum. It just sat there, humming in silence like a sealed confession. As she approached, it responded. A faint pulse rippled across its surface, and the shell split with a soft hiss. Inside was no weapon, just a child, no older than 6, pale skin, dark hair matted from sleep, breathing, unconscious, wrapped in a thermal layer that bore the same insignia as the flag left on Helios. Lyra's breath hitched. She crouched slowly, trying to understand what she was seeing. Why would they send a child? Then the realization hit her like a lightning strike. It wasn't a message for the Empire. It was a message for her. This wasn't just any child. It was her, the same eyes, the same nose, a perfect genetic match. She didn't need a scanner to know. The humans hadn't just woken her memories. They'd restored what the Empire stole. Her unaltered self. The pod wasn't time travel. It was time preservation. Somehow they had taken a biological imprint of her before her abduction and saved it in stasis all these years. Why? For leverage? For backup? Number for truth. She reached out slowly, her fingers brushing the girl's forehead. Warm. Real. Alive. Behind her, a soft rustle. She drew her weapon instantly and turned. Kyle Voss stood in the clearing, arms raised. "No need for that," he said. "You've already remembered." She didn't lower the gun. This isn't possible." He stepped closer, slow and calm, like approaching a wounded animal. "It's not a weapon, Lyra. It's a mirror." "Why show me this?" "To remind you who you are, what they turned you into, and what you can still become." Her hand shook. "She's me. She was you. Before they erased it. Before they trained you to be their sword." Lyra stared down at the girl, something fragile cracking open inside her. Memories came faster now. Her mother's voice, warm hands tucking her into bed, stars painted on the ceiling of a rusted hull. "You said I was placed here for a reason," she said, voice low. "What reason?" Kyle's eyes darkened. "To destroy the Empire from within." She didn't flinch. "Not this time. You want me to assassinate Kalrix?" "Number that would make him a martyr. We want you to take something far more valuable." She turned to him. "The military?" He shook his head. "The truth. We want you to speak it. Not in secret. Not in shadow. On the Empire's own channels. On the Senate floor. Let the people see what they've done. What they've built their power on. You. And if they don't believe me, they don't have to. They just have to hear you. The truth will do the rest." Lyra looked down at the child again. Her own face, pure, unbroken. "I don't know if I can do this." Kale's voice was softer now. "You already are." Behind them, the sky cracked open. The warship was back, only now it wasn't alone. They didn't hide anymore. Not the humans, not their ships, not their truth. By the time Lyra returned to the capital, 17 human warships hovered silently across the Varel skyline. No cloaks, no warnings. They positioned themselves like monuments, not invaders, watching, waiting, daring the Empire to act first. And for the first time in centuries, the Empire didn't know how to answer. Inside the Citadel spire, the Senate chamber was in chaos. Senators screamed for war, demanded blood, begged for guarantees of safety. Generals argued. Advisors whispered of coups. A few even began quietly boarding escape vessels. The myth of the Empire had cracked. Fear was seeping in like floodwater. And then the doors opened. Lyra walked in alone. No guards, no armor, just her black officer's uniform, creased, rain-stained, and utterly silent. Eyes turned. Whispers followed her like smoke. The Emperor sat above them all, unmoved. His golden armor gleamed beneath the chamber lights, his gaze cold and reptilian. "You return now," he said, "as our skies are occupied. Explain yourself, General Mirren." She looked up at him, and for once there was no fear in her. "My name," she said, voice calm, "is Commander Alira Thorne, born on the human colony vessel Sola Terra, abducted during the siege of Diraxis, indoctrinated under the Empire's orphan program, raised as your weapon." The chamber froze. She tapped a small device in her palm. Every screen around the room flickered, showing raw, unaltered footage from the archives. Her childhood, the raid, the fabrication of her identity, the voices of her real parents. "You built your power on lies," she continued. "On genocide, on erasure lies," Kalrix growled, standing now. "Treasonous slander from a broken mind." She stepped forward. "You didn't just destroy our worlds. You stole our children. You made them forget, made them kill in your name, but we remember now." The room erupted. Screams, accusations, threats of execution. Lyra raised her voice above the storm. "We don't want your throne." She turned to the cameras broadcasting to every world across the Empire. "We want your people to see, to choose, not through fear, through truth." Above them, the warships began broadcasting her speech across the galaxy. Every outpost, every station, every home. Some wept, others raged, but no one ignored it. In a single moment, the face of the Empire cracked, and something older and stronger began to rise beneath it. Memory. Kalrix stepped forward, claws flexed, his voice trembling with fury. "You think one speech, one half-blood child can break 1,000 years of rule?" Lyra met his eyes. But your own lies will." She turned her back on him and walked out. He didn't follow. He knew. It was over. 3 days later, the warships left Varel space. No city was burned. No empire was conquered. It collapsed on its own. Governors defected. Fleet admirals surrendered. Systems declared neutrality. People refused orders. And through it all, the truth kept spreading like wildfire. The Empire's heart didn't explode. It simply stopped beating. And as for Lyra? She disappeared from public view after the collapse. Some said she returned to the human fleet. Some claimed she stayed behind, helping rebuild the broken colonies. Others whispered she was never real at all, just a symbol, a ghost sent to break a giant's spine with a whisper. But one thing was certain. The warship that started it all, the one that appeared without warning and silenced an empire, it still roams, unbound, unseen, but watching, always watching. And above the stars, etched into the hull in a language long forgotten, are 4 words. We never left. Remember.